shout out to the Denver Broncos for locking up the #1 seed. And I can already hear where the questions may be going from you guys about how it was kind of a grinded out win again, even though the Broncos still won by 16 points. But what I'll tell you guys is that was not the vibe in the Broncos locker room after the win. They just got the #1 seed. I think people need to realize how important and significant that is, and that's the message from Sean Payton. Guys, you could feel Club Dub from outside of the locker room. They brought a live DJ in, had the whole DJ board set up, smoke everywhere. It still smelled like smoke when I walked in about 20 minutes after they had wrapped it up. And that's the mood that the Broncos are feeling right now. Not like the offense wasn't very successful today, but that the defense was dominant and the Broncos can get it done when they need to. And that's what they did. It was not a pretty game. And look, Bo Nix and Sean Payton both took accountability for the offensive performance. Sean Payton said, I wasn't sharp enough. The offense wasn't sharp enough. And Bo Nix even said, I feel like I failed the offense by not having the urgency and energy specifically early in the game. And there's a little clip of him going to the sidelines to the offense, trying to get them fired up, saying, let's go, let's get this cranked up. And he took responsibility for not having that. So I like that. And Sean multiple times throughout the press conference said, there's going to be things that we look back and we say, that wasn't good enough, but we will fix it. We will fix it, specifically talking about the offense, because the defense was pretty damn good. And specifically, guys, players in the locker room after the game told me that Sean Payton was mad at the defense all week for the lack of takeaways. Mad. He was showing them video clips of lack of takeaways and turnovers that they've gotten other seasons, but not this year. And that lit a fire under the Broncos defense because they got the takeaways, won the turnover battle today. Broncos defense had 2 takeaways that really led to 10 points. The Broncos defense outscored the Broncos offense and outscored the Chargers, which is pretty damn impressive. And Sean Payton said this last week, and he said it again tonight, that starting at the playoffs, so everyone's turnover battle goes to 0 once the playoffs start. There's only one team that has won a Super Bowl with a negative turnover differential in the playoffs. That was the Rams a couple of years ago. So he knows that the Broncos defense needs to create takeaways and then score. He said that's what elite defenses do, is score. And man, did the Broncos defense step up to that challenge today, getting 2 takeaways and one of them going for a pick 6. And the other one, the offense went backwards after they got it and they still got a field goal. So I'm giving those 3 points to the Broncos defense. So I know it was like a grinded out game, but what the Broncos did is still very special. 14-3, that #1 seed, which is just absolutely huge. So players aren't going crazy because they know there's still more work to be done, but they are enjoying this as a big accomplishment. This is Sean Payton's 2nd goal that they just completed, and I made sure to congratulate him on completing that #2 goal after the win.
Zach, man, I know the #1 seed. Did Sean talk a little bit at all about how they will approach this week in terms of practice, time off? How will they go about this week?
Yes, he did. And boy, he's going to handle it differently than he did the Broncos bye week in the regular season. And that's no surprise. Of course, in the Broncos regular season bye week, he gave them the entire week off. That's not the case this week. The Broncos still need to work, and Sean Payton's actually doing this in a different way. And he's giving players a couple of days off right now to get rested, to get healed, and then he's bringing them back for practice on Friday and Saturday, and then they'll have Sunday off. By Monday, they'll know who their opponent is, and then they'll be back in the building on Monday to prepare for that. Ryan, I can see you're like, what in the world? And it's to make sure that
that's a long break.
The guys don't get out of town. It is. Now, Sean.
What do you mean not get out of town? They'd be in Vegas by night.
They could be. But what I'll say is, in the locker room, I don't remember which player told me this, but I think it was Zach Allen, said, we've all got together and we all said we're not leaving Denver during this bye week. Ja'Quan McMillian said after the game, shout out to him, he said a couple of guys, he's already talked to some guys about getting together to put in some work. And of course, Sean Payton did make it clear to them the training facility and the weight room's open all week, and I imagine that's kind of where the Broncos' focus is right now. They're not looking at it, at least no player that I talked to is looking at it as, man, we have today until Friday off right now. It's just we don't have a busy, crazy week, and so guys are looking to get rested. I think Pat Surtain said he's either going to be in the facility or in bed this week just to get rested up, and that's a huge thing. And really quick, on the number 1 seed thing, Sean Payton made it clear that the most important part of getting the number 1 seed isn't the rest. The number 1 part of getting the number 1 seed is that you just avoid having a potential game. You win that game. And Bo made it clear that the Broncos get an extra playoff check for next week's game that they've already secured right there. So a little extra money in their pocket, a little more rest, and then a little weekend work this coming week.
Damn, they get paid to just chill. That's sick.
Perks of being the best.
It's kind of like our job. Zach, was there... I got the feeling that there would probably be like some, what's the word? I don't know, criticism coming from the media towards Sean and some negatively slanted questions like, are you worried about this or worried about that? I'm curious if that was the case and what Sean's response was to that.
Well, Ryan, Sean didn't even need to hear a question from the media. He gets on the podium, and now there was a question asked, but I noticed kind of right away, Sean isn't looking in the direction of which media member just asked a question. He's got his eyes locked on a specific columnist that has been in Denver for a very long time. He's got his eyes locked on him. So he answers his first question, and then kind of in between questions, he goes, I see you're in here. You don't ask me questions often. Or you come in here, never ask me questions, but you sure do have a lot to write about, don't you?
Wow.
And so Sean was on attack mode. It was, I got to say, Sean was confident while also, taking appropriate, what he thought was appropriate shots at people that have been negative to him, thought that he couldn't take this team to the promised land. And by no means are the Broncos at the promised land, but for the regular season, guys, this is as good as you can do. He did get them to the promised land with that number 1 seed. So Sean was on fire with that. And then Sean just gave a couple of very long answers. And you can just tell that he's so proud of this team because he was the only one that believed in this team 8 months ago to the extent that he did. And he got a lot of people that made fun of him, a lot of people that laughed at him, and he's the one laughing now. And so he's going to take those victory laps in the next couple of weeks, especially as the Broncos continue to win right now.
Any news coming out of the Broncos? I wouldn't say injury or training room. Anything on PJ Locke? What's good with J.K. Dobbins? We obviously heard that he could have potential to coming back, Zach. Yeah, any injury updates?
Yeah, there is hope that J.K. will be back earlier than the initial time frame. The initial time frame was the Super Bowl. There's hope that he could be back earlier. He was here today. Seemed to be moving around fine, good. So that is encouraging. I would not expect him to be here for the first round of the playoffs. Dre Greenlaw
We're already
also
past
here.
that.
Good. You're absolutely right. I should say the second round of the playoffs. You're like Sean Payton calling me out for getting the numbers wrong. I appreciate that. PJ Locke did not get an update on him, but man, did the Broncos avoid a massive injury heading into the playoffs with Garrett Bowles coming back. It was really good that he was able to get back in. That was an ankle injury, that's a huge one that the Broncos were able to avoid.
And Forsythe too. You didn't want to have to go down to center number 3.
Yeah, exactly. Sam Mustipher, who stepped in, and Luke Watford could be back by the Broncos by the third round of the playoffs, which would be the Broncos' second game in the playoffs. That's when he's expected to be back. So that's also good news for the Broncos if they make that deep playoff run.
Anything else?
No, man, I'm good.
You got anything else for us that we didn't hit on yet?
This team is.
Oh, I do have one question. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Zach, because we weren't there, what was the crowd like today in terms of their energy and just being super loud? I know Sean has been very vocal about this in terms of them being loud. So what was the crowd like today?
The crowd was fantastic. And from the start of the game, typically you don't feel the crowd until late in the first half or the fourth quarter. It was the first Chargers drive where on second down, I'm like, oh my gosh, this place is rocking like it's the fourth quarter. So shout out to the crowd for showing up. And so much so that after the game, Sean Payton shouted out the crowd, said it was fantastic, exactly what he was looking for. And he said, we are going to need you. You are part of this team. You are, he said it last week, the 12th man. He said Texas A&M coined it, and then the Seahawks stole it. And he said, you are an active part of this team and our success going forward, and us having 2 playoff games right now. And he also gave a shout out kind of to the scoreboard operator by saying there was no Bronco head floating back and forth on the screen. So I will say that there were no silly games in Sean Payton's mind that were played on the scoreboard. The scoreboard operator lived up to it, and so did this crowd. And guys, I can't imagine how electric this place is going to be for these 2 home playoff games. It is going to be so cool. These are the moments that the Broncos have been working for. And for the first time, we get to cover a home playoff game since DNVR BSN has ever been around. It's going to be awesome. I guess, no, BSN did cover the end of the 2015. I should say our podcast.
Since our podcast has been around for sure. Yeah, we did cover that Super Bowl run. That was my first year covering the team. It was what a time. All right, Zach. Yeah, like I said, anything else that we didn't hit on that you think is important to be mentioned from post game?
Yeah, I just got to say that this locker room is extremely confident and happy of what they've done. And I know there can be some questions about, well, what happened with the offense today. But they do need to get some things straightened out. But as I think Bo pointed out, they had 3 guys on defense sit, the Chargers did. They still have a really good defense, and he is right about that. But the Broncos were able to get it done. And I'll tell you what, if these takeaways continue from the defensive side of the ball, if this carries into the playoffs, then the Broncos will be playing in Santa Clara. And I don't really care how the offense looks. If this defense continues to look like this and get these takeaways and score points. So it's a very confident group from Sean Payton going in to the playoffs. And they get a couple of days off, but they're staying in Denver. Don't worry, they're not going to be in Vegas by tonight.
All right, Zach.
That
appreciate
of, Zach.
That's true. That's true, buddy. No one would lie to me, though, right?
They're not going to DIA, bro. They're flying out of Centennial. They're not going to go to Vegas, though.
Well, yeah, exactly. They won't. Guys, congrats on the #1 seed. Freaking cool that the Broncos were able to pull this off with a masterful defensive performance. And, hey, defense wins championships. So if you have to have one side of the ball show up in a big way, it's the defense, and that's what they did today.
What ice cream are you celebrating with?
Oh, man, I think I got vanilla, maybe some added. I'll probably do the Nerds tonight, Benny. Just throw some Nerds in there. Blend it up, little Nerds blizzard.
All right, Zach, get home safe, brother.
See you, fellas.